All right. Hello. I'm going to be doing some tarot readings and/or looking at the astrology of this thing in upcoming days and perhaps weeks. As usual, that will be up to everyone out there. If people want tarot readings, we'll do those. If not, then we'll look at the astrology, or if there's a mixture of both, which there usually is, then that is what we shall be doing. All right, so I'm in a fine mood today, and by that I mean, my angry self, I guess. A little angrier than usual, maybe, but whatever. Still gonna do a live stream. So let me just set everything up here. Okay, the audio is good. Yes, if you're new to my streams, I do need just a bit to get everything set up. So just like a couple minutes. So keep that in mind. I feel like I should be scooted in a bit more. If my chair wants to cooperate with me. All right, all lit up from the evening sun, I see. Not sure how I feel about how that makes my hair look, but who really cares about that, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so get this shared to Twitter. Tarot readings. Live tarot readings. Okay, let's check that out. So yes, as usual, you will hear my air conditioner clicking on and off throughout the stream because it is now summer. It is Cancer season, in fact, and it is very hot where I am. .24 degrees Celsius to be exact. Okay, now posting the donation link in the chat. And I need to move my microphone slightly, so this might be loud. There we go. Wait. Okay. Not loud at all for me, but it may have been loud for you guys. I apologize if it was too loud. All right. Let me get the astrological window ready. Okay, now I just need to grab a quick tissue and then we shall begin. So 1 moment. Okay, here we are. So let's see. Let me just double check that I did everything I'm supposed to do. I'm gonna check one more thing. Okay, excellent. So, as usual, while waiting for people who may or may not want readings tonight, we shall look at the current astrology, the current astrological conditions, the current astrological weather. And I see the lighting is changing as we're going here live. So I may have to turn on some more light here soon, but we shall see. But we'll figure that out as we go. So looking at the current astrology, let's just dive right in here. Let's see. This is from the current time, 8:23 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, June 26, 2019. The moon is currently in Aries, in action-packed, impulsive Aries, giving everything quite the mood of let's go get things, let's do things, let's start things, let's push forward into the new, let's initiate, that sort of thing. And the sun, meanwhile, however, in the past 5 to 6 days has, holy shit, it just got dark. One moment, I apologize. The sun has shifted into Cancer. It is now Cancer season, as I mentioned earlier. Self-protective, careful, cautious Cancer, and so that's giving our conscious minds much more of a reserved vibe right now. I think we need even more lights. All right. Geez, I'm gonna have to start getting up earlier so that I can get all my shit done before the sun goes down, and we can capture that nice natural lighting before it goes away. I don't know. Maybe I can pull that off. I like to do a lot of shit. Basically, I like to get a lot of shit done before these streams. So that would be a bit hard, but maybe I could do it. Hey there, Valeria. Welcome to the stream. So anyway, as I was saying, it's an interesting mix right now with the moon still in Aries and the sun in Cancer, because, the moon in Aries, well, Aries wants to push forward and do things, whereas the sun in Cancer wants to be very cautious and hold back and be reserved. And so we have that sort of mix of energy right now overall as a human race. Like, the moon is essentially saying subconsciously and more emotionally, we may feel like we want to push forward. We may feel those subtle impulses, but consciously, with the sun in Cancer, our conscious minds are basically much more careful right now, much more like wanting to be reserved, and also far more, weirdly enough, far more predisposed to emotionality than perhaps even our subconscious minds right now, at least in theory. That's one. Oh, and let me also just remind people, I want to remember to say this from time to time as usual. In addition to doing $10 tarot readings, if you want an astrology reading, like a birth chart reading, I will also do those for $20. And those cost a little more because they take a lot longer. So if you're interested in that, $20 will get you an astrological birth chart reading plus a tarot reading. And then if you just want a tarot reading, that's $10. So anyway, Another very key thing to mention here is that literally just 5 minutes ago, at least according to this site, let me check my other information here. Well, according to this, it would be, I guess, 8 minutes ago, but whatever. Within the past 10 minutes, Mercury moved into Leo, like right here, right now. According to planetwatcher.com, it happened at 8:22. According to my astrology software, it happened at 8:19. Well, whatever. The point is that it happened. And Mercury in Leo, that is essentially our minds taking on the quality of Leo and our communication taking on that quality as well. And so our thoughts becoming much more bold, much more dramatic, spontaneous, impulsive, passionate, perhaps more showy, our thoughts and our communication. And so the way that we communicate with one another now, as in the past 10 minutes, and it's going to continue for weeks to come, are actually, well, Mercury is about to go retrograde, so it's a little more complicated than that, but it'll continue until early July. We'll get more into that shortly. And then it'll come back a while after that. Our thoughts are going to be much more bold, our communication much more bold, showy, dramatic. There may be some tendency to maybe even exaggerate things to some extent. At least I would theorize that that is quite plausible. And we're going into that from having Mercury in Cancer, whereas Mercury in Cancer had our thoughts much more careful and cautious and reserved and focused on the deep emotional meaning of things. And now it's like much more fun, much more showy, much more passionate and bold, that sort of thing. So let's see what else. Where should we go next? Let me just see. Well, the moon, speaking of that also, is currently squaring Pluto. And make sure I have this right. And moving into a square with Mars. So, moon squaring Pluto, obviously anything with the moon is just a very temporary, transient thing, but for the moment, that can create some like power struggles, issues with power dynamics and issues with sexuality and issues with deep, dark emotions, especially when it's the moon square to Pluto, can create a sort of internal conflict, surrounding the emotions more than anything. And of course, we could dig deep into that, but I'm just trying to give more or less a summary right now. And then the moon moving into a square with Mars can also be challenging because that's essentially saying the emotional aspect of us versus the willful, action-oriented, aggressive aspect of us. So things can get a little tricky when you have those two together. You can have, maybe that's why I'm feeling like extra angry today. In fact, myself personally, I'm so fucking angry that if it hadn't become like a more or less typical thing for me to do tarot and astrology streams on Wednesday nights, I'd probably be doing like a stream on something related to the stuff that I'm mad as hell about right now. Like I'd be doing like Invalidation Part 2 stream, perhaps. Who knows? But, well, there's always Saturday. Anyway, yes, that is it exactly, though. As the moon moves into the square with Mars, is we may be feeling collectively, especially with Pluto's influence as well, extra angry tonight, I would imagine. And, maybe especially since Mercury is still not really that far away from Mars. It's moving away from it, but it's really not that far away right now. They're still basically conjunct. We might even be tempted to say things that are maybe expressing our anger, but are perhaps going a bit too far, or maybe tempted to say things that are very hurtful to other people because we feel so angry. We feel maybe like our boundaries have been violated, stuff like that. Now, fortunately, by tomorrow, the moon will have moved out of this aspect. However, let me just fast forward here so I can verify this. The thing that will not have moved out of aspect by tomorrow, or the next day, or the day after that, is the proximity of Mars to Mercury. So this whole thing about us possibly, or our possibly being tempted to say things that are very angry or maybe hurtful or whatever, that's not going away. The moon is sort of aggravating that difficult condition right now, but even though that part of it will be something else by tomorrow, it doesn't mean that that Mercury-Mars thing is going away. In fact, it's eventually going to intensify again because of the upcoming Mercury retrograde. So why don't we go ahead and look at that right now, as long as we're talking about it. Let me see. Do I have it in front of me? Yes, I do. Although my microphone's blocking it somewhat, so I'm having to sort of crane my neck. Okay. July 8th, 6:22 p.m. Eastern Time. Mercury will align with Mars again, as it did just recently. And they're still close together now, as I mentioned. But in Leo, in bold, dramatic, spontaneous, showy Leo. And so basically what this means, and Mercury will have gone retrograde by this time, by the way, on and around July 8th, there will be a culmination / concentration of that very aggressive, possibly very angry thought and or communication for all of us collectively as a human race. July 8th is where it peaks, essentially. And let me just fast forward here a bit. I'm going to see, does Mercury catch up to Mars again anytime soon? Let me just see here real quick. Because you see, if you can't tell, I don't plan out these streams. I don't really look at the astrology ahead of time, or not any more than I look at it on a day-to-day basis anyway. So I'm figuring this out as I go, if that's not obvious. I have no idea what I'm going to say until the time comes to say it. So let's see. Mercury does catch up with Mars again eventually, but not for a while. Sort of closing in on it here. Okay, there we go. Oh, that's interesting. All the way till September 3rd of this year, Mercury will catch up to Mars, but when it does, and yes, we're jumping way ahead here, and we'll look at this much more, hopefully look at this much more when we get closer to September, but there's a very interesting Mercury-Mars-Sun conjunction that day, September 3rd. So as if the Mercury-Mars thing wasn't enough, you have the Sun involved, just giving it even more potency. So yeah, like I said, this is off in the future quite a bit. We'll look at it more when we get closer to it. Hopefully I'll still be doing these kinds of streams around that time. I should be. But September 3rd, just remember for now, September 3rd of this year, 2019, could be some very intense thoughts, communications, aggressive, angry thoughts, communications happening that day. Maybe also some potentially stressful, like short distance travel, perhaps even, because Mercury can talk about that sort of thing as well, like short distance travel and commerce as well. Mercantile, the word mercantile is related to Mercury. So yeah, that's Mercury will catch up with Mars again eventually after the July 8th conjunction, but not for quite a while. All right, so on that note, when does Mercury actually go retrograde this time around? It goes retrograde at exactly 7:15 p.m. Eastern Time on July 7th. So one day before that perfecting of the second Mercury-Mars conjunction. The first we had just recently, a number of days ago. I don't have it in front of me, but we had it just recently. I think it might have been the 19th, but on or around the 19th. The second time, July 8th, that occurs one day after Mercury goes retrograde. So should be an interesting couple of days, July 7th, 8th. Look for things to be perhaps rather aggressive and maybe a bit stressful. And also, when we have this kind of situation where right when Mercury goes retrograde, it is conjunct another planet. My personal astrological theory about this sort of scenario is that conjunction is literally going to color or imbue itself upon the entire Mercury retrograde, which could spell a bit of bad news for us, a bit of potentially stressful times, because Mercury retrograde can already be a potentially stressful time, but you add in a Mercury-Mars conjunction at the start of the retrograde, influencing the retrograde in its entirety. The whole time Mercury is retrograde, it's possible that our thoughts and our communications may be more aggressive, more angry. So I think we really have to, during this Mercury retrograde, this upcoming Mercury retrograde in particular, we should really think carefully before we speak, especially if we're expressing anger. So that'll be something that I'm practicing, along with hopefully everyone else who is aware of these energetic patterns. All right, so let's see what else we have. By the way, if it's not obvious to anyone watching, feel free to interrupt me at any time. If you want a tarot reading, just say so and leave that donation of $10, and I will get you your tarot reading immediately. Same goes, obviously, for $20 astrology readings. All right, let's see here. So where should we go next? Let me see just how long that Mercury retrograde is going to last. Oh, wait, how did I? Oh, that's weird. Somehow I jumped all the way to September and didn't even mean to. One moment. Also, yes, I'm multitasking and glancing at my phone real quick. This app on my phone, speaking of astrology, has alerted me of Mercury in Leo now, and it says intellectual expression. That's one way of putting it, I guess. Let's see, where does this retrograde end? The Mercury retrograde will be over by August 1st. Let me zero in on it some more. And actually, to be more precise, it'll be over by the end of the day on July 31st. Yes, by 8 p.m. July 31st, it'll be over with. However, as always, Mercury will remain in its retrograde shadow until it reaches the point that it turned retrograde, which was at, where is it? 4 degrees, 28 minutes of Leo. And that point, or that time when it reaches that point again, will be, let's see, August 15th. So First of all, I would say I'm not one who really worries much about Mercury retrogrades, but maybe I'm one of the lucky ones that it doesn't seem to affect as much, if I'm being honest. But regardless if Mercury retrograde is a factor for you or not, or seems to be a factor for you or not, don't shoot the messenger. But basically, it's really not all the way until August 15th that things are going to get sort of back on track intellectually and communication-wise for all of us. Because that will be when Mercury moves out of its retrograde shadow. It's going to feel like Mercury's retrograde until August 15th, essentially. And then that day, that will be over with. So let's see what else we can go over here. Let me make sure there's not a flea on me. Okay, no. We're good. So indeed, July 7th, 7:15 p.m., Mercury goes retrograde. Now, the interesting thing, as is so often the case with a Mercury retrograde and other planets going retrograde, is when it moves back into a sign that it had been in for a bit. And that is indeed what we have with this Mercury retrograde. It goes back into the sign of Cancer, where it was just prior to like 20 minutes ago. So let me just see here. When does it move back into Cancer? Do I have that over here? No, I don't. Okay, let me figure this out. Mercury will move back into Cancer July 19th. And so at that time, our thoughts, our mental activity, our communications will return to that self-protective, careful, cautious Cancerian energy, that, concern with deep emotional meaning and the home and family and that sort of thing. That desire for security, that will begin on July 19th. Let me see how long it lasts. Mercury will move back into Leo, where it just moved like 20 minutes ago, on August 12th. And so then we'll go back to the place where Mercury essentially is right now. So I hope all that made sense. Plan your lives accordingly. And let's see what else we can dive into. The last thing I'll really say about Mercury retrograde is, in my opinion, it's really there to, teach us stuff. It's there to point out where we may have loose ends that need tied up. It really shouldn't be something that we fear. It's all it is anyway is a reflection of the energetic patternings within us. To be afraid of a Mercury retrograde is to be afraid of yourself, essentially. So, let it serve you in that way. It's not like it's there to wreak havoc with your life. It's there to point out the areas of your life that need some more attention, and areas that need corrected as well, like areas that need to have their loose ends tied up. I don't know. Can't really think of the best way to describe it right now. So let's see what else we have. Venus continues her transit through Gemini, through playful Gemini. So everything from our love lives to our social lives to our financial lives are influenced by that playful, curious, sweet, delicious, loving, fuck my life. I just mixed the two of them together. I was thinking Gemini and then I was thinking Venus. Correction. Everything from our love lives to our social lives to our financial lives are currently influenced by that playful, curious, intellectual Gemini energy right now. And we actually have a Venus-Pluto quincunx coming up in just 7.5 hours. So that's, let's see, tomorrow, June 27th at 4:20 a.m. Eastern Time. So that's a good time, I hope. Venus quincunx Pluto, without getting deep into it, is basically like the part of us that is about socializing and love and money in a frustrating connection or frustrating relationship with Pluto, the part of us that is deep and dark and powerful and normally oh so out of reach. So it's an interesting interplay. I don't know. Let's see what else could be said about that. Venus quincunx Pluto. I would say like an awareness of, well, it could play out a number of ways. One way that I think would be rather common is an awareness of intense desire that may be uncomfortable or annoying or frustrating. An awareness of one's like biological needs in a relationship that, again, could be annoying or frustrating because this is a quincunx. An awareness of financial realities that may be a bit difficult to accept or deal with, because Pluto is that sort of all or nothing, potent, all powerful aspect that is so far out there and pretty much untouchable. And again, Venus so often talks about money and luxury, wealth, that sort of thing. So we have that. Maybe we could look up some more information on that later. Although for some reason it's a lot harder to find information on quincunxes online for some reason. Anyway. Meanwhile, Mars continues its transit through Cancer. And of course, I already mentioned the ongoing Mercury-Mars conjunction or near conjunction. But again, as I mentioned in recent streams, Mars in Cancer, Mars doesn't exactly like being in Cancer because Mars wants to push forward and Cancer wants to pull back. Mars wants to be aggressive and Cancer wants to be very nurturing. But Mars in Cancer is very cautious before it takes action. It takes action for things that are deep and emotional. It takes action to find security and is motivated by that. That's what it will fight for as well, is security and things that have a lot of emotional meaning as well. Mars will fight for stuff that impacts it emotionally. So we collectively right now are more prone to fighting for that which has a strong emotional impact on us, far more than we would, quote unquote, normally, whatever normal ultimately is, if there even is a normal. The planets are always doing something. Let's see here. All right, so where should we go next? Well, let's fast forward to tomorrow real quick, because speaking of the lunar aspects we were going over earlier, tomorrow, right around this time, actually, just before 8:51 p.m. tomorrow, roughly 8:30 or so, let me just see here, roughly 8:30-ish, the moon will align with Uranus in Taurus. And so expect the unexpected tomorrow, especially tomorrow evening, tomorrow night. Sudden, shocking, unexpected Uranus. So there may be sudden insights, there may be sudden realizations or revelations. There could also be completely unexpected physical developments in your life, all kinds of things like that whenever the moon aligns with Uranus, as it does once a month. Furthermore, not long before it does that, the sun forms a supportive sextile to Uranus. And so the sun's just going to energize that even more, essentially. Now, it's a sextile, so that's harmonious energy. It's a supportive aspect. And so many times when I think of the sun harmonizing with Uranus, I think, oh, that's when we get all our brilliant ideas, or that's when we get so many of our brilliant ideas or brilliant insights. Genius can be sort of born out of that. So it's actually, I would say, mostly a positive aspect. But remember, Uranus is the crazy planet, and so anything can theoretically happen. But yeah, if there's a sort of breakthrough tomorrow for you watching or for those in your life, don't be surprised, because Uranus is all about breaking through, and we've got the sun energizing it with a supportive sextile, and we've got the moon aligning with it with a conjunction. So tomorrow, expect the unexpected indeed. All right, let's see what else we can go over here. One moment. Well, of course, if we just continue along the line of the planets here in the order of the planets, Saturn continues its transit through Capricorn, continues, we continue to have this ongoing Saturn-Pluto conjunction or near conjunction. I've talked about that a lot recently, so I'm not going to get deep into it right now. Just remember that will perfect in January of 2020, January 11th to be precise. Some places January 12th, I guess, depending on the time zone. And on and around that time, that is when the shit is really going to hit the fan, as they say. That is when reality is really going to come crashing down. So intense times to come. But I talked about that plenty recently, so I'll just say that for now. What else? Well, I guess we skipped over Jupiter. If we were truly going in order, I would have said Jupiter first. I don't know why I jumped to Saturn, but Jupiter continues its transit through Sagittarius, is retrograde, still retrograde at this time. We just had that Jupiter-Neptune square not too long ago, so there may be that element of confusion occurring at this time. Things, not being quite as clear, because anytime we have difficult aspects to Neptune, we're typically suspecting a lack of clarity, confusion, that sort of thing. And then in addition to that, of course, we also just had, as I mentioned in a recent astrology stream, the Venus-Neptune square just like a few days ago. Well, actually, that specifically we had on the 24th of this month of June at 5:58 a.m., which created an amount of confusion, or reflected an amount of confusion within us for a number of days. And that was also right after Venus had opposed Jupiter, which again is in this ongoing square to Neptune. So we may be gaining some clarity at this time, although with that, again, that Mercury-Mars thing, only to find that we're like angrier about things. But with this ongoing Jupiter-Neptune square in the background, we're still a long way from gaining a lot of clarity, I suppose. And especially with Mercury going retrograde soon, I mean, I hate to say it, but we're headed for a certain lack of clarity, I think. It doesn't mean you can't still gain clarity, of course. It just means that there's more of a challenge around that right now. The conditions are more favorable right now for creative thinking and artistic thinking, as opposed to logical thinking. And especially as Mercury goes retrograde, the conditions are more favorable for reanalyzing things, re-looking at things, revamping things, redoing things, reconsidering things, especially in an intellectual sense, but also just in general whenever Mercury goes retrograde. So all things to keep in mind, I suppose. Let's see what else. By the way, I am getting a little bit sleepy here. I hope I don't have to go grab a caffeinated beverage sometime soon, but if I do, then I will, so I can keep streaming. I had coffee earlier, but now it's like it's just not cutting it. But I will try to continue here. Let's see, what else do we have? We have an upcoming Sun square to Chiron. So won't this be interesting? This is always fun. When the Sun is in a square to Chiron, a square is a challenging aspect. The Sun is our conscious mind or sense of self. Chiron is the aspect of ourselves that has to do with the healing of wounds, specifically the aspect of ourselves that wants to heal the wounds in others that are a match to the wounds we have ourselves, so that we can, through healing their wounds or helping them to heal their wounds, help ourselves heal our own wounds. It's also the aspect of ourselves that is forever wounded, no matter how much therapy or meditation or whatever we do in this lifetime. So, what do you have when you have the Sun? And the Sun can also symbolize, I would say, the ego versus the aspect of ourselves that's all about the healing of wounds. You have the ego's resistance, I would say, I would argue, to the healing of wounds. You have a need for healing that the ego is resisting, that the ego does not want to face or deal with at this time. So obviously, what is the challenge that we have then in the next 24 hours, specifically 19 hours from now? It is to try to meet the needs of both aspects. Is try to, individually and collectively, and so I'm speaking to everyone individually out there, I would say try to figure out what it is that your ego is wanting. Why doesn't your ego, if you find yourself in this situation, why doesn't your ego want to deal with the healing of a wound or face something within you? And then also address the aspect of yourself that does need to heal. What are its needs? What kind of loving attention does it require? Does it just require loving attention, period? What does it need you to do for it? And basically, my advice is try to get those two aspects to work together. That's how I think of squares and oppositions and half squares and sesquisquares, is like those two aspects don't want to work together. There's some kind of tension or conflict or whatever between them. So try to use your creativity to come up with a way to get them to work together, come up with a creative way to get them to work together, to integrate them. So that's what we have. We must deal with the healing of our wounds in the next 24 to 48 hours, or at least that's going to be, in an extra spotlight, far more than usual. Specifically, that aspect perfects tomorrow, June 27th, 2019 at 3:59 p.m. Eastern Time. So it'll basically affect us all day tomorrow. All right. What else do we have here? Let's just see. I don't know. Where should we go next? Hang on, I'm thinking. Well, I think what we should do is I want to look at Mars moving into Leo for a bit because that's also very significant. It's going to be right behind Mercury. But then after that, I want to see if I can talk a little bit more about the current aspects being formed by the different planets, or at least make sure that I'm covering that thoroughly enough, I guess. So Mars does indeed move into Leo in 5 days, July 1st at 7:19 p.m. Eastern Time. So I talked about Mars and Cancer earlier and what that meant. Well, on July 1st at 7:19 p.m., Mars will enter Leo, and all of that stuff that I said before about Mars and Cancer will shift to instead, now Mars in Leo. Mars is going to be much more bold and impulsive and willing to fight for, how do I put this? Our actions may become more dramatic. Our actions may become more showy, more impulsive, more spontaneous, more inspired, with Leo being a fire sign. And Mars likes being in Leo because Mars is basically a fire planet. Mars relates most to the element of fire. I would argue that second to that, it relates to the element of water, actually, but it primarily relates to the element of fire. And so, fire planet in a fire sign, Leo, Mars likes that. So expect us all to collectively become far more impulsive, spontaneous, acting on inspiration, inspirational, inspired, I guess, and being willing to fight for things in a far more dramatic way. But again, I have to say, beware that Mercury-Mars conjunction or near conjunction. We could also be prone to a lot of anger, a lot of angry words, a lot of angry communication. Think before you speak. So let's see, what else? So looking at the other aspects, let me just see what else we haven't covered here that's current as opposed to the upcoming stuff. Actually, we have covered a lot of it. Oh, here we go. How did I miss this earlier? The moon is currently in, and this perfected earlier today, but it's still very much within the range of it, a supportive sextile to sweet, beautiful, loving Venus, which I think we need very much right now. So even though we're in the midst of this rather stressful energy, we have the moon supportive sextile to sweet, loving Venus, softening the blow a lot. That's essentially saying that the moon, which is our mood, our moods, our emotions, is harmonizing with the aspect of ourselves that is sweet and loving and wants to socialize and be friendly, that wants to make things beautiful. Venus is all about beauty, wants to beautify things. Maybe that's why I felt inspired to trim my bangs earlier. They still aren't very beautiful, but I tried. At least that's the point. The energy was there, and it moved into something. So we have that going on right now, and we'll probably feel that for the rest of the night tonight. So that's very nice. Let's see what else. Now, I almost hesitate to talk about the North Node because, to be quite frank, I don't understand it as well as the other planets and luminaries or other points. The North Node it's not even a planet or luminary or anything. It's an imaginary point. It's a mathematically calculated point. based on the moon and Earth's orbit, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. But what I will say, though, about it briefly, is just the way that I would interpret its current aspects would be, one, it is in this ongoing harmonious trine to Neptune. So I always look at the North Node as talking about our life purpose, what we are meant to do in life. And so it's in this ongoing trine with Neptune. Neptune's all about our dreams. And so essentially our collective, our individual and collective life purpose for all of humanity right now is harmonizing with dreams, creativity, art, imagination, spirituality, our collective life purposes, or individual and collective life purposes, or on an individual and collective level, I guess, are being infused with creativity and imagination and spirituality and all of that in a very harmonious, positive way. So that's quite a good thing. Now, if you talk to other people out there, other astrologers, I don't know if you could even call me an astrologer. I'm just sort of, doing what I do. But if you talk to like real hardcore astrologers, they probably have a lot more to say about that than what I just said. So that is my one disclaimer. I don't know everything there is to know. Far from it, indeed, about this stuff. Certainly not about the North Node, but that is how I interpret it. And I don't know, in my own practice, that seems to be what ends up being accurate, is the North Node talks about life purpose, perhaps more than anything. If I ever find something else out that is more relevant about it, then I'll say so. But so far, it seems it's primarily life purpose. So that's one aspect of what's happening with it right now. Another thing that's happening with it right now is that it is in an opposition to Saturn. So that's essentially saying our life purpose in an opposition or conflict with Saturn, the reality, the limit, the wall, the cold, hard facts of the matter. So many of us may find that right now, while we're getting inspired with our life purpose, with all of this creativity and imagination and dreams, we could also find that trying to actually carry out our life purpose, trying to actually make it real, may not be the easiest thing, because it's in this opposition with Saturn. However, there's an interesting sort of caveat here. My personal theory is that whenever we're dealing with Saturn, even in an opposition like this, let's just say if you have honored Saturn, then it's going to be easier for you. If you have honored Saturn, what does that mean? If you have honored Saturn by doing the hard work, by staying consistent with, in this case, your life purpose, or working towards your life purpose, whatever that means for you. If you have done the hard work and made the proper preparations and done the proper planning and all of that, then you may find that actually you are able to make your life purpose a reality more and more these days, that you are getting a pass from the authority, which is Saturn, that you are able to make it real. And again, this is a very slow moving, ongoing aspect. This has been happening, and it's going to continue to be a factor. Let me see if I can just get a rough idea of it. I mean, this has been going on for months. I'm back in April now. Now I'm going back to March. Okay, it looks like it moved into form more or less or I shouldn't say form, that's misleading. It moved into near perfection in April, more or less. It's still happening now, and it's still going to be with us. Let's see. Until at least August. So, this is a very slow-moving aspect. So, my advice would be to currently, especially if you're finding difficulty with like implementing your life purpose and making it a reality, to honor Saturn by doing the hard work and staying consistent and stuff like that. Now, some might say to me, like, how would I personally advise that? Because you don't hear me talk very much anyway about hard work. You hear me talking about inspiration, following your excitement, stuff like that. And I say, yes, these are not opposed ideas. Indeed, follow your excitement, follow your passion, do what you are most passionate about, because if you truly are on that wavelength, then you will be consistent with it. You will be honoring Saturn. And if it requires a lot of hard work, well, if it's something that is truly in alignment with your passion, your joy, that hard work won't even feel like hard work. It'll feel like fun. It'll feel rewarding. It'll feel enjoyable. And you are still then, in fact, honoring Saturn, In fact, I don't think Saturn ultimately, to be frank, really cares whether or not you're enjoying the hard work or not. Saturn only really cares if the hard work gets done, So you could, you hear these stories about people who become successful, but it's something that they actually don't enjoy. How is that possible? Well, it's possible because Saturn honors hard work, whether you're enjoying the hard work or not, whether you love it or you hate it, or you're indifferent, anywhere in between. So my advice is find something that you love to do, and that when you're working away at it, doesn't even feel like hard work, Kind of like for me, what I'm doing right now, talking about astrology. And when I give people tarot readings, like it does feel like hard work in a sense, but it's hard work that I really enjoy, and that's why I do it. So let's see. Where should we go next? Let's just see here. Almost wondering if I should maybe post a story to Instagram right now telling people that I'm live. But I don't know, would they be interested in that? Because that's primarily, or at least it was, a paranormal themed Instagram account, the one that I'd be posting the story to. So I don't know if that would be ideal or not. I think we'll probably just wait at this point. Okay, so 1 moment, please. Hang on. Okay, let's see what else we have here. So something else, just for the hell of it, I'll throw this in here, that we have, and let me see what the trajectory of this aspect is before I get deep into it. So this is something that perfected roughly a couple of months ago, and let's see, is it going to return or is it not? Let me just see. No, not anytime soon anyway. Okay. This is something that perfected a couple of months ago, but we're still within range of it to some extent. And again, my disclaimer is I don't pretend to fully understand this kind of aspect, but from what I do know of it, or at least theorize about it, from my 3 years of experience studying astrology, with what this is, which is a North Node opposition to Pluto, North Node Pluto opposition, would be like our life purpose essentially in conflict with Pluto things, everything that is deep and dark and unconscious, all or nothing, everything that is powerful, maybe even the power structure, especially since Saturn is also involved. The North Node is essentially opposite the Saturn Pluto conjunction or near conjunction right now. So there may be some difficulty in, how do I even put this? There may be powerful forces that are trying to hold us all back collectively right now from actualizing our life purpose. But fortunately, that should be beginning to fade at this time. And, we, especially with that trine to Neptune, we should be getting more of an influx of creativity and imagination, stuff like that for our life purposes. So that should help significantly. And then, technically there's a quincunx to Jupiter, but I don't know if that's really, well, maybe that is relevant and I'm just not realizing it, but it doesn't strike me as relevant right now. Let's see what else. Where else could we go here? Well, I guess we'll just move right along. Let's see. On July 2nd at 3:22 p.m. Eastern Time, there is a solar eclipse, and that is also, of course, the new moon. And that occurs at 10 degrees of Cancer. So again, new moon, July 2nd. Plant your emotional seeds at that time, 3:22 p.m. Eastern Time, July 2nd. New moon in Cancer, a very emotional, deep, perhaps moody, or maybe even melancholic new moon. So that should be an interesting day. July 2nd. And of course, with that being an eclipse, they say in astrology that anything can happen during an eclipse. However, they also say that the sort of fateful event of an eclipse could happen anywhere up to 6 months prior or 6 months after the eclipse. So, who knows what it may be. I've also heard the idea that especially 3 to 4 months after the eclipse is when you really see the effects of it. And so in this case, that would be, since it happens July 2nd, that would be October 2nd through November 2nd of 2019. So there you have it. Which actually I could just briefly, normally I don't do this because I don't exactly get into this area of astrology, but I've studied enough astrology that I can do it. I can tell you a very basic, and it is basic because I'd have to look at your entire chart to give you a really good answer for this, but I can give you a basic, accurate but incomplete idea of what area of your life this will affect, depending on your sun sign. So, because I can use that to tell which house it will occur in. This solar eclipse will occur in for you. So let me just do that real quick because I know people like that. And I'll start with a sign of Cancer since it takes place in Cancer. If I was, I guess, a truly professional astrologer, I'd probably start with Aries, but I'm going to start with Cancer just because I can keep it clear in my mind far easier that way. So for all people who are Cancerians watching this, who are born under the sun sign of Cancer, or hell, you could say if it was your moon sign also. If you are a Cancer, then this eclipse on July 2nd is taking place in your first house of self. And so expect fateful developments involving you yourself as an individual, you personally, that area of your life, the way you see yourself, the way you think of yourself, everything involving you as an individual. Expect that area of your life to be affected in a fateful way or fateful developments by this eclipse. And if you want to say a few months following it, then you could look at that, or you can believe up to 6 months prior or 6 months after. I think just for brevity's sake, with keeping those other possibilities in mind, let's just say a few months following the eclipse, or hell, maybe even during it, but we'll just say that from here on out. All right, let's see. Let's see, how do I want to do this? I guess we'll just, I just shook my desk, I apologize. We'll just continue going from here. If you are a Leo, for all Leo people, the eclipse will take place in your 12th house of hidden things, so expect fateful developments involving all the hidden areas of your life, the areas of your life that don't normally see the light of day or get focused upon. All hidden things, hidden areas of your life being affected in a fateful way. If you are a Virgo, it will take place in your 11th house of social networking and groups and community. So expect that area of your life to be affected in a fateful way by this eclipse. If you are a Libra, this eclipse will take place in your 10th house of career. I keep freaking saying things the wrong way, and it's driving me crazy. If you are a Libra, expect your 10th house of career to be affected in a fateful way, most likely a few months later from July 2nd by this eclipse. It will take place again in your 10th house of career if you are a Libra. Scorpio takes place in your 9th house of beliefs and ideals and government and legal proceedings and religion and philosophy. I don't know, 9th house is a lot of stuff. So expect all of that to be affected in a fateful way. Your 9th house of where you go far and higher education and again, government and legal proceedings and belief systems. If you are a Sagittarius, expect it to affect your 8th house. Now, hang on, just because of my OCD, I have to make sure that I'm right about this. Yes, if you are a Sagittarius, expect your 8th house of sex, death, and taxes to be affected. 8th house matters, that which is all or nothing, deep and emotional, that which it really matters, that which is sort of at the core of things as opposed to the surface of things. Fateful developments involving those 8th house matters if you are a Sagittarius. Capricorn. If you are a Capricorn, this takes place in your 7th house of partnerships and marriage and open enemies. So expect fateful developments in that area of your life if you are a Capricorn. If you are an Aquarius, it will take place in your 6th house of health and work and your schedule and your day-to-day activities and everyday contacts, friends, neighbors, acquaintances, whatever. Expect fateful developments in that area of your life. If you are a Pisces, the eclipse will take place in your 5th house, and so you can expect fateful developments in your 5th house of love and fun and romance and sex and teaching and everything that is bold and fun. Let's see. If you are an Aries, the eclipse will take place in your 4th house of home and family and personal immediate environment. And so expect fateful developments quite possibly around your home and or with your family or just your environment. We can talk more about psychopath. I don't understand what you're asking, Gabriel. Could you rephrase the question? You want me to talk more about psychopathy? Like you want me to do a stream on that? Is that what you're asking? I don't understand. Let's see here. If you are a Taurus, this new moon solar eclipse will take place in your 3rd house of communication. And let's see, 3rd house, communication and short distance travel and that sort of thing. So expect, fateful developments in that area of your life. And then finally, if you are a Gemini, this new moon eclipse will take place in your 2nd house of money and interpersonal relationships, close one-on-one relationships. So expect fateful developments involving that area of your life if you're a Gemini. And again, a few months from the eclipse, so like October 2nd through November 2nd, or, some people also say it could be up to 6 months prior or 6 months after the eclipse. So interpret that as you may. Let's see. I'll check on the status of the stream real quick. Yeah, see, that's why I normally don't get into that area of astrology, because like I explain that stuff well enough, I guess, but it's, it's just it's a little confusing to me at this point, and it's not really exactly what I'm here to do right now, but I know that people find that interesting, and so I thought I would throw that information out there. So, Gabriel, are you still here? Because it says no one's here currently. So did you leave that comment and then leave? I think you left a comment like that before in one of my streams, and then you left. So, but I don't know. Maybe the view counter's wrong or something. I already comment about psychopath too. I don't understand though. Are you asking me to do a stream on psychopathy? About blank expression of psychopaths. All right. What about the blank expressions of psychopaths would you like me to address? So anyway, that's the new moon solar eclipse. Let's see. I'm gonna keep my eye on the chat for a bit. And then we shall return to the astrology, unless someone wants a tarot reading. I'll also just check my phone real quick. Yeah, Gabriel, I don't understand what you're wanting, like, me to talk about, though, or what you're asking about. Like, are you wanting me to talk about the blank expression of psychopaths? Like, I don't understand. But let me look at the astrology here some more. Actually, well, let me think here. What could I say about that? Well, if you're asking about the blank expression of psychopaths, I mean, yes, I've looked into this stuff before, as I've looked into many things. I'm not an expert on it, but from what I know, and again, I'm not sure what you're asking, but just, I guess, addressing the blank expression of psychopaths, if that's what you're asking about. Well, yes, they often will have blank expressions because they have a lack of emotion. Wait, I see this in a site called Cura, that one psychopath is talking how stay in attention with emotions, trying in the case. Stay in attention with emotions. Wait, what does that mean? Hang on. How to stay in attention with emotions. Still not quite sure what you're asking. Perhaps you're asking about the ability of psychopaths to essentially fake emotions and fool people. That is something that does happen. Pass the link for you. Yeah, sure, if you'd like to. I can try to, I guess, talk more about whatever you're asking about. Yes, it is true. Psychopaths, while they don't feel emotions the way that non-psychopaths typically do, or let's say a mentally healthy person does, or even in many cases a mentally unhealthy person does, they're very good at faking emotions so as to sort of blend in with other people. But I think that make one video about blank expression don't make sense. I think that I still don't understand. Are you saying that someone made a video about psychopaths having blank expression and it doesn't make sense? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I guess I'd have to see the video for myself. Perhaps you're saying that because they try to fake emotions, it wouldn't actually make sense for them to have a blank expression. But I guess they would have a blank expression when they're not trying to fake emotions. But I think a lot of times, a lot of times a psychopath, and this would also be typically true with those who have narcissistic personality disorder, if I'm not mistaken, a lot of times they almost won't care, like if they're truly blending in or not. And so they may indeed let themselves have a blank expression. But the thing that I guess also has to be borne in mind here, and this was something that I definitely used to not realize, is that when it comes to psychopaths and sociopaths and narcissists and all of this, so many want to get into an us versus them mentality. And I guess to an extent, I can understand that. But we also have to consider that, first of all, psychopathy and sociopathy and narcissism, these are mental illnesses. And so I'm not sure that it's such a good idea to sort of negatively stigmatize mental illness by getting into like this us versus them mentality, as if all psychopaths and such people are monsters. And of course, some people will say, well, how could you say they aren't monsters? And I say, well, you have to realize that, like it or not, they are human beings too. And like it or not, they, like all human beings, are reflections of an aspect of yourself. And you wouldn't even be able to see them or interact with them or hear anything about them if there wasn't something within you that was a match to that and a match to them. So I don't know. I guess maybe in some ways I have mixed feelings about it, because it's like, yes, you got to protect yourself and whatnot, but at the same time, if you get into this us versus them mentality, that's just going to perpetuate non-integration and polarization, as opposed to the integration and the healing that we need as a species. So that's my position on it. But anyway, yeah, I'm happy to talk, like, I guess, at least briefly about other subjects. But since this is an astrology and tarot stream, we'd best get back to the astrology now. I'm happy to talk briefly about other things that anyone wants to bring up. But after I talk briefly about them, then we should get back to the astrology and or tarot. So let's see here. Yes, I was about to look at Venus entering Cancer. This happens July 3rd, 2019 at 11:17 a.m. And let's see here. So Venus entering Cancer, this might be something that we should look up some additional information on, because honestly, I don't know as much about this as I probably should. Other than that, simply in very general terms, Venus in Cancer is very sweet, emotional energy, very nurturing. Cancer itself is a very nurturing sign, and Venus is all about, love and beauty and stuff like that. And so Venus moves into Cancer. Well, in tarot, Venus in Cancer actually corresponds to the Two of Cups, which is a card that's all about deep, true love. And that's whether it's of like a romantic, like partnership kind of love, or even like a very deep, close friendship. So Venus in Cancer, very simply put, sweet, loving energy. But, obviously there's going to be more to it than that. And hopefully we can look that up here pretty soon after we go over some other stuff. Jeffrey Dahmer had diagnosed with borderline, but he don't demonstrate emotions, is cold. Yes. So okay. So you're saying, yeah, it doesn't make sense how some will show or like feign emotions, but others, well, yeah, I guess that is a thing. I can see how that would appear to not make sense. All right, let's see. And of course, soon after that, we have the Mercury retrograde that we went over earlier. And one moment. And then the very next day, speaking of Venus, once the Venus reaches 556 of Cancer, Venus squares Chiron. So we had the Sun squaring Chiron that we talked about earlier, which happens, in less than 24 hours. And then we're going to have Venus square Chiron on July 8th. So that's essentially the aspect of us that wants to be sweet and loving and sociable and stuff like that, in a conflict with the aspect of ourselves that wants to heal wounds, to help heal the wounds in other people so as to help heal the wounds within ourselves. And so because it's Venus, it shouldn't be too hard to sort of resolve that energy, I don't think. But I would say, especially, on and around July 8th, just like my advice with the Sun square Chiron, with Venus square Chiron, try to get the aspect of yourself that is sweet and loving and sociable, Venus, to integrate and cooperate with the aspect of yourself that's about the healing of wounds, Chiron. That's what we have there. Now, right after that, July 8th, 2019, 11:31 a.m. Eastern Time, Venus forms a harmonious, supportive sextile to Uranus, the planet of shocking, unexpected developments. And so that will be a day where you can expect sudden things to happen in the area of love, like sudden new, like romantic developments, stuff like that is sudden, shocking, unexpected in the area of your social life, your financial life, beautifying things, perhaps, maybe even a love of new insights and new revelations and genius ideas and stuff like that, since Uranus also talks about that. Again, that's July 8th, 11:31 a.m., which is, hang on one second, let me make sure I get this right, the very same day that we have that second Mercury-Mars conjunction in Leo that I talked about earlier, where there could also be a lot of aggression happening. But interestingly enough, see, this is where we have to take all this stuff together. So Venus is sextiling Uranus, squaring Chiron, and the Mercury-Mars conjunction is trining Chiron. So, oh boy, this is an interesting mix, isn't it? So while there may be like those sort of shocking, unexpected developments in our love lives or social lives, but also difficulties in the healing of wounds when it comes to Venus, the part of us that is about love and our social lives and all that, the Mercury-Mars conjunction trine to Chiron says, oh, I am so ready to say the things that need to be said to facilitate the healing of wounds. So that's a very interesting mix that day. And just to add to it, we also have the moon in Libra opposite Chiron that day. So that's quite the tangled web. All I can say is around that time, the healing of wounds will be emphasized greatly. Good old Chiron always bringing that into focus. Do I have WhatsApp? I do not. But anyway, at this point, though, since we've looked at most, if not all, of the important upcoming stuff in a more summarized fashion, I want to dig deeper into these various aspects, these upcoming aspects. And I think we should start with what just happened now a little over an hour ago with Mercury moving into Leo. So, as I so often love to do, we're going to look up stuff on the internet about that and just sort of read and analyze it. I like to talk about some subjects you have on your channel. Well, thank you. I'm happy to hear that, Gabriel. Which subjects in particular? Also, as long as we're in a little transition here, maybe I should post a little Instagram story about this, since so far we're not getting much activity tonight. But let me also check a couple things real quick. Yeah, consider this an intermission. And remember, as I always want to remind people, I'm giving tarot readings for $10, and I'll also give astrology birth chart readings for $20 if anyone's interested in that also. Let's see here. So yeah, I'm going to post a quick story saying that I'm doing these live tarot readings and talk about astrology right now, and then we'll get right back to it. One moment. All right, I forget if that means the flash is on or off. I might have to do this a couple times, so bear with me. All right, let's see. Hey everyone, I am live currently on youtube.com/poetic-heretic doing tarot readings, $10 tarot readings, and looking at the current astrology. So come get a reading if you would like, or just come watch. All right. Hey everyone, I am live currently on youtube.com/poetic-heretic doing tarot readings, $10 tarot readings, and looking at the current astrology. So come get a reading if you would like, or just come watch. All right. Hey everyone, I am live currently on youtube.com. All right, hopefully that is good. I don't know. All right, so let that post, and we'll get on with everything, I guess. All right, whatever. Hopefully that works. Your number? Oh, well, thank you for that. I prefer to talk to everyone publicly, though. I'm not really one for, like, I don't know, just like texting people that I like meet online through streaming or whatever. But we can always, communicate via these live streams that I do. So Mercury in Leo transits. Oh boy, I feel like I could use Mountain Dew or something right now. Let's see what astrosage.com has to say about it. Let me close some of this other stuff on here. All right, here we go. Jesus fucking Christ! Sorry if anyone's offended by that language, but as soon as I went to read it, there was like a pop-up that took up the whole screen. All right, here we go. Mercury transit in Leo. And I guess this is specifically on that which resumes on the 26th of August of 2019. Mercury, the prince amongst the 9 planets, Navagraha, is considered to be the significator of our communication style and mind or intellect as per Vedic astrology, as well as business, communication, commerce, and logical debates. The positive effects of this planet on one's Kundali birth chart makes the native intelligent and gives them the ability to utilize their communication skills with accuracy. Apparently, I could use a little more of that. Communication skills with accuracy. As per astrology, this planet is the lord of the zodiac signs Gemini and Virgo. Furthermore, it remains in its exalted state in the sign of Virgo, but is found in its debilitated state in the zodiac sign Pisces. Out of the 9 planets, it remains friendly only with Venus and the king of the Navagraha, Sun. On the flip side, it keeps enmity with the luminary planet Moon. Interesting. Enmity with the Moon. I wonder why that is. You ever get that feeling where you just need to like stretch kind of or something? Ugh. This freaking site, there was another pop-up. I swear if there's one more pop-up, I'm leaving the site, I'm not going to support that BS. Mercury transit in Leo, etc., etc. Okay, effects of Mercury. As per Vedic astrology, the significator of one's intellect and logical abilities and the lord of the signs Gemini and Virgo, Mercury has lordship over the nakshatras, Ashlesha, Jyestha, and Revatha as well. This is fucking crazy. I've been studying astrology for 3 years and I've never come across these terms. Interesting. And I haven't just been like, studying it. I work with it every single day of my life. The color green and the day Wednesday of the week belong to this planet. If this planet is placed positively in a native's kundali, the person succeeds in all fields due to its influence. Also, it is often seen that such a person has a great command over languages, good communication skills, an intelligent mind, and is quick-witted in nature. These natives are able to endear and fascinate everyone with their talks. While Mercury is generally considered to be a benefic planet, however, often when it comes in contact with a malefic planet, it starts giving negative results to the native. Due to its malefic effects, natives can suffer from physical as well as mental problems. In such a situation, people are often unable to express themselves properly, become mentally weak, and often face loss in business as well as poverty. Astrology has several Mercury remedies to strengthen and pacify the planet for such natives. Fascinating. I was born with Mercury retrograde, actually, for those who are interested in knowing that. Maybe that's why I tend to focus on the past a lot. But I also like to believe I balance that out by focusing on the future and the present moment as well. But some people out there like to think that they just know me and could like see like 5 minutes of what I do and be like, oh, why do you focus on the past so much? It's like, oh yeah, you know me, you know everything about me from having watched me for 5 minutes. All right, but I guess some people like to think they know everything. Transit period. Now Mercury will be making its transit in the zodiac sign of Leo on Monday, 26th of August, 2019, in the afternoon, blah, blah, blah. And will remain posited in the same till 11th September 2019, 4:47 a.m. early morning. Vedic astrology says that the transit period of Mercury is the smallest one, which is a minimum of 14 days. Now, this transit will leave its impact on all 12 zodiac signs. Whether negative or positive depends on the sign itself. Let us take a look at the predictions of the effects of this Mercury transit in Leo on your moon sign. Interesting. Moon sign as opposed to sun. I have read before that there are parts of the world that primarily utilize that. Hang on just a second. Okay, let's see here. Damn, this is a tough night. I'm not really getting a whole lot of activity. But oh well. As I've said before, I'm not here to win a popularity contest. I'm here simply to do what is most fun to me as often as I possibly can. I don't know if we should go through all of the signs based on what they are. If someone has them as their moon sign. Yeah, I don't know. I'm continually getting off vibes about this site. Like, there's just something fucking wrong with it, if you ask me. Like, there's just something not right with it, and I can sense it. So, fuck that shit. We're moving on. Watch, somehow the owner of the site finds this stream and is then deeply offended. Well, sorry. Sorry, not sorry. I honestly couldn't give a shit anymore. Let me see if I can find specifically the 2019 transit, because we have some other stuff popping up here that is not necessarily relevant. Let's see, Mercury in Leo for 2019. I am searching. Let's see, what do we have here? If it'll ever load. Sorry, it's taking so long. This is astroyogi.com, by the way. Okay, here we go. Mercury transit 2019. Can these freaking things stop? Okay. Is this live? Nope, this is pre-recorded, and I'm just happening to say this right now. I'm just kidding. Obviously, it's live. And welcome. All right. Mercury transit 2019. The Vedic legend says that Mercury is the offspring of Jupiter and Moon. Hence, it has the characteristics of both of these planets. Mercury is the key significator of one's communication skills, analytical abilities, and intellect. So it is a key planet for lawyers, sales professionals, artists, and scientists. Mercury's impact is the strongest when it is positioned in Virgo and is low while in Pisces. The friendly planets of Mercury are Sun, Venus, and Rahu. Mercury has a bit of animosity towards the moon, but is neutral with all other planets. The planet pertains to diseases relating to head, skin, and throat. All right, let's see here. We're giving a lot of information here. I'm trying to find what's relevant to us. Mercury in Leo. I don't know if they're actually going to give details on it, sadly. Damn it. Guess we're looking for another site now. And by the way, again, if anyone wants a tarot reading, feel free to interrupt me. Or an astrology reading. I do astrology readings also. Tarot readings are $10. Astrology readings are $20. For now, we're just going over the astrology, current astrology. Mercury retrograde 2019. Well, that's very important as well. Okay, never mind. That was the previous Mercury retrograde. Wow, it literally feels like Mercury's retrograde already, and that's probably because it's in what will be its shadow. It's like I'm trying to find information on Mercury retrograde. It's like it feels like Mercury's retrograde right now because I can't find anything that's relevant. But let's see what we have here. Yearlyhoroscope.org. I apologize. I don't know if we're going to find anything all that good on this, but hang on. I think if I search for Astrology King, they will almost certainly have something on it. They're always reliable. What am I looking for? I'm looking for information on Mercury in Leo since it just entered Leo like an hour and a half ago. And for some reason, the internet doesn't want to give it to me. This has literally never happened before. You know what? I summarized Mercury and Leo earlier. We're just going to have to move on at this point because for whatever reason, I cannot find anything else on it. So I apologize for that. What we also have coming up, however, is the Sun sextile Uranus. And that is tomorrow, June 27th at 1:44 p.m. Eastern Time. And so let's look up some additional information on that. I've already said how, that's going to emphasize the sudden, shocking, unexpected developments and sudden insights and mental revelations and realizations, stuff like that. All day tomorrow, we'll all more or less be feeling it. But let's get even more information on that. An aspect like that, I'm pretty damn sure will be easy to find. So let's see, Sun sextile Uranus, as some people call it. Okay, this time the first result that came up is from Astrology King, astrologyking.com. And see, here with this one, here it is right away, instantly. Sun sextile Uranus, 27th June 2019. Go to the transit specifically. Sun sextile Uranus transit, remember this is happening tomorrow, brings pleasant surprises and stimulating encounters. This is a good time to try something new and exciting, and you should have enough freedom to be able to do this. Increased self-awareness can come through flashes of insight or through feedback from personal interactions. Creativity is stimulated, and you should feel comfortable expressing the more flamboyant or kinky side of your personality. Ye gods. Socializing, group activities, and chance encounters should be more frequent and enlightening. You are more likely to meet unorthodox types or people from different cultural or ethnic backgrounds than your own. Mercury makes things levitate. Leo is proud. Leo is proud, yes. Yeah, I mean, I explained earlier in the stream my interpretation of Mercury and Leo, but I was trying to find more info on it, and for some reason, the internet was just like, nope, I'm not going to give you that info. So I said, okay, fine, we'll move on to Sun sextile Uranus. Curiosity and inventiveness allow you to make new discoveries or receive flashes of insight about whatever interests you. Scientific, electronic, and internet technology subjects may spark your interest, and this is also an excellent time to practice astrology or similar subjects. It may be difficult to stick to a routine, and you will be easily distracted. However, it is this tendency to skip from one thing to another that leads to the extra insight and discoveries. Taking the opposite view, or making changes in your life, will not be as disruptive as it sometimes can. You will find new ways of doing things that can lead to greater efficiency. All right, so there you have it, Sun sextile Uranus. Again, that's happening tomorrow. And what's also happening tomorrow, as I mentioned earlier, is the moon aligning with Uranus. So take everything you just heard and amp it up a notch, because we have both the sun and the moon aspecting Uranus tomorrow. So really expect the unexpected. All right, what should we look at next? Let's see if we can find anything on that Sun Chiron square, which is essentially, as I said earlier, at least my theory, is the ego not wanting to face the healing of its wounds. So let's see what we have here. Okay, it looks like cafeastrology.com has something about it. Okay, I think this is it. Chiron Sun transits. Chiron transits to the Sun conjunct square opposition. Okay, so I guess this applies to a conjunction, a square, or an opposition. And again, what we have tomorrow is a square, Sun square Chiron. They act to uncover fears and wounds with regards to our ego and our life path. Just confirming my theory here. Thank you. We discover our quote-unquote weaknesses in the foundation of our very identity. Insecurities, fears, perceived failings, and unresolved issues about our sense of purpose in life are uncovered. In some cases, women experiencing these transits deal with issues surrounding their fathers and his effect on their identity in adult relationships with men. Our creativity, self-expression, and independence are questioned. Look for Leo in your natal chart, as the sun rules Leo, and this is an area of life that will be directly affected by the transit, in addition to the houses where the transit actually takes place. Ah, that's interesting. I've never thought of it that way before, because it's Sun square Chiron. So since the sun rules Leo, if you look for Leo in your natal chart, you can get a better idea of how this particular transit, that is again happening tomorrow, will affect you personally. Tomorrow, June 27th. So if you watch when this is not live and it is tomorrow, June 27th, then it's happening today, I guess. So let's see. Initially, circumstances in your life tend to make you feel weakened and ineffective in the world. There can be a feeling that you just don't have the courage to make it on your own, or to express yourself creatively. As the transit progresses, you begin to gather the courage to express yourself and your needs, and your doing so may surprise everyone around you. Chiron acts to pull up courage and bravery, but your initial expression of this newfound bravery may be so abrupt and unrefined that you seem to be acting completely out of character. During this period, you come, I think it's supposed to say face to face, with patterns that you have been repeating in your life, especially with regards to relationships with men and or your father figure, addictions, and codependency issues. Relationships with men that leave you feeling insecure or ineffective may be dealt with now. Addictions that undermine you may need to be dealt with. You may need to deal with your own wounded pride. Ooh. And just intuitively, I would say that in particular may be like extra spot on when we have Sun Chiron aspects. This idea of wounded pride, because the Sun and Leo is all about pride. Like like Misadventure just said in the chat earlier, Leo is proud indeed, and then Chiron's the wounded healer, so wounded pride. I think that makes a lot of sense. That would be the challenge when we have Sun Chiron squares, oppositions, or conjunctions, as this article says. These transits may bring quote-unquote teachers into your life in some manner. With the Sun, these people who are very willing to offer you advice are often males. With hard aspects, you need to be careful about blindly following someone's advice at this time, simply because you are feeling weakened and in need of help. Later, you may resent the fact that you didn't stand up for yourself. Yeah, indeed. I would say never blindly follow someone's advice. Question everything, including everything that I'm saying, by the way. Question and think critically about everything. At least that's my suggestion. You are bound to open yourself up to an entirely different perspective on your life, but be careful not to fall into the role of victim and let someone else, quote unquote, save you. By transit's end, you will have uncovered your own power and effectiveness, and the decisions you made following someone else's advice may not look so good anymore. Very commonly with these transits, you deal with others doubting your character, and you could feel like you're forced into a position of proving yourself. This may take place on either professional or personal levels. Your first reaction is to do just that, prove yourself to others. However, you eventually realize how fruitless this effort is. Others are likely to interpret this effort as weakness, and this can only exacerbate the problem. Eventually, you need to learn to stand up for yourself by not falling into a pattern where you are essentially, quote unquote, sucking up to people. Ideally, you recognize that stepping back and letting your character speak for itself will earn you far more respect, as well as self-respect. In fact, self-respect is what this transit is truly about. Fascinating stuff. Now, they also have an overview about Chiron itself, which I think is probably worth reading to get a little more understanding of this, this planetary body. It's not even a planet. It's not a planet. I don't actually know what it is, to be perfectly honest. I think it was misclassified a number of times, which adds to the confusion, but it's a point or it's, a body, an object in space that is tracked all the time by astrologers because it ends up being so powerfully reflective of the things that we face in our lives. So let's look at the overview about it, understand Chiron a little more deeply. Some of you may even wonder why the hell I always talk about it so much. Well, here's why. Listen up. Chiron takes approximately 50 years to come full circle. This slow-moving planet's transits are fairly long-lasting, and each transit takes its time to unfold. As Chiron transits a point in our chart, retrogrades back over it, and then hits it again in direct motion, it imparts its own special wisdom upon the point in question, the areas of our lives and parts of our psyches ruled by that point. How Chiron affects our lives depends very much on whether we resist its influences or we try to work with its energies. Chiron acts to open up wounds in the parts of our lives and of our psyches that it touches, especially by hard transit. and then Chiron asks us to work on healing them. Initially, hard Chiron transits can make us feel weakened or ineffective. As the transit progresses, we begin to learn what it is that is holding us back from healthy expression of the traits associated with the transited planet or point. Under heavy Chiron transits, we feel ineffective and encounter situations in which we feel we need to prove ourselves to others. The trick is to prove ourselves to ourselves first, to build our own self respect. Efforts to prove ourselves to others will backfire. They simply won't work. We will appear less effective to them, and will exacerbate our own feelings of unworthiness. It's an endless loop. We have to take a step back, be patient, and let our characters speak for themselves. If others are not seeing us in a particularly positive light right now, or if they are doubting us, which can very much be the case during these transits, the only way to solve the problem is to resist the urge to prove ourselves to them. Under heavy Chiron transits, we also need to avoid a tendency to follow others, to quote unquote suck up to them. Chiron activates, by hard aspect, our wounds, areas where we feel weakened and unsuccessful. And while it shines its light on these wounds, we may be inclined to blindly follow others' advice or to get ourselves into subservient roles. All right, and that concludes their summary of Chiron. So that's very interesting. Let's see what else we can dive into. Actually, here, I'm going to, just for the hell of it, because I feel like it, and because I can, it's my stream, I can do whatever I want to do. I'm going to take a little intermission and teach those watching now and who watch when this is not live something that hopefully will be quite valuable. It's certainly very valuable to me. And that is the importance of focusing on the present moment. So if you would like to join me for this, I would say just take a moment right here, right now, and turn your attention and all of your mental activity to everything that is right here, right now. This very moment. And take a deep breath as well. And try to just let everything that is right now be what it is right now. And have an awareness of everything around you. And now, let us take that awareness, that feeling of peace, and try to keep it with us, hold it with us as we proceed, as we resume our activities. And those right here, right now, are astrology. So, what should we look at next? Now, I know we didn't have the best of luck at looking at Mercury moving into Leo, but if we look at Mars moving into Leo, let's just see, because that's going to be quite relevant as well, not to mention the upcoming Mercury-Mars conjunction. So let's see what we can find out about these things here. Mars transit in Leo, 2019. It is astrosage.com again. They're popping up again. All right. Mars transit in Leo, 9th of August, 2019. Vedic astrology believes that the planet Mars is the commander of all the deities, which is why it is the chief significator of aspects like energy, power, and abilities. It indicates courage, shocking pop-ups. And willpower in one's birth chart and rules over the zodiac signs Aries and Scorpio. The planet Mars remains debilitated in Cancer and exalted in the Capricorn zodiac sign. Also, Aries is its mole tricon or trine sign. It is the ruling lord of south direction and determined by the element of fire. It acts as a Yog Karak for zodiac signs like Cancer and Leo. Its presence in the 3rd, 6th, 10th, and 11th house is considered quite auspicious. Hey there, Rosie. Thank you for the donation. Yay, we get to do a tarot reading. All right, let me know what your question or subject of inquiry is whenever you're ready. All right, get my cards ready here. You sent a payment. I see that. How does my ex Anthony feel about me? All right, let's look into this. I'm also just going to apply some lip balm real quick because that's driving me crazy here. Okay, all right. We would like a Celtic cross reading for Rosie in the chat right here, right now, on the question of how does her ex, Anthony, feel about her? How does Rosie's ex, Anthony, feel about her? Let us see what we get. We are asking the universe, how does Rosie's ex, Anthony, feel about her? In a Celtic cross. Celtic cross reading. How does Rosie's ex, Anthony, feel about her? How does Rosie's ex, Anthony, feel about her? All right, that's it. Pull my browser back up. If I ever seem to go into a bit of an odd state when I'm doing a reading, that's just my getting very focused and concentrated on it so I can really tune in as best as I possibly can. All right, 7 of Swords reversed, the Hierophant reversed, the Ace of Wands, Judgment reversed, the Hermit, the 10 of Pentacles, the 3 of Cups, the 4 of Wands, the High Priestess reversed, and the 8 of Cups. All right, let's put all this together here. Let us just see. High Priestess reversed. LOL. Yes. That is only in hopes or fears, however. Let's see. I think I see where this is going, but just one more moment here. Huh. Well, if I'm interpreting this correctly, it almost seems like there's a desire on his part to become almost hyper focused. How do I put this? It seems like the way that he may be approaching the situation, and again, this is just my interpretation, but from what I'm seeing here, is it's like he may be trying to sort of wall off any, let's say, resistance that he might have to you, and instead is trying to really focus himself on the idea of like harmony with you. Like, I'm getting repeat cards here that are saying that one way or another, it looks like he's most likely trying to become very precisely focused, and likely with that judgment reversed in particular in the past, even to the exclusion of other details. But like he's trying to turn that focus towards like harmony with you. So it's like, how do I put this? It's almost like he's trying to avoid his issues or something. Like he's trying to find harmony with you, but trying to avoid his issues in the process. Like, I hope this is making some sense. Being kind of quiet and closed off, maybe he will change. I don't know how he feels. He's weird, LOL. Yeah. Of course, another interpretation of the hermit for falling in his hope to achieve position could indeed be a desire to be closed off and alone a lot, but and quiet possibly too. But there's also, the Ten of Pentacles, the Three of Cups, the Four of Wands, all showing up, all indicating this like desire for harmony, or like, since this is how he feels about you, like a desire for harmony in the near and maybe somewhat distant future. But let's see. The Seven of Swords reversed. So let me focus in on that because that was the very first card. Seven of Swords reversed. I usually interpret that as a desire for things to like sort of get back to normal, or like a releasing of going against the flow. So, it's almost like maybe he's wanting to just like surrender to the way that things are, or let things be what they are, like not have any kind of fighting or conflict. The outcome card is the Eight of Cups, which, if we look at that specifically, the Eight of Cups talks about often like comprehending what is right for oneself emotionally and creatively. I often interpret it as like having to make a sort of sacrifice, having to leave something behind, having to go one's own way. But it's just, when it's following cards like the Four of Wands and Ten of Pentacles, I wouldn't say that he's necessarily wanting to like leave everything regarding you behind, but that is the outcome card, the Eight of Cups. See any potential of him wanting to get closer to me or come back with the cards you drew? Wanting him to get closer or come back. Let's see. Well, yes, actually, because challenge card, Hierophant, can talk about bringing two people together in addition to its other meanings about belief systems and whatnot. You know, the Ten of Pentacles can talk about like a very happy family life, but in the context of this, a happy relationship. Three of Cups is all about like a happy friendship and stuff like that. And the Four of Wands is also all about like a happy family, happy relationship, celebration, things of that nature. Right? With the Eight of Cups, like he might try to move on from me or move on from our problems. It's theoretically possible. In fact, let me draw an 11th card and see what we get. The Two of Wands, which talks about the planning stages of things. Huh. Yeah, this is a bit of a mixed reading. Again, my first like intuitive instinct with it was to think that he's trying to essentially fragment himself. And there's an aspect of him that does want to move on, and there's an aspect of him that instead wants to basically establish some kind of relationship with you, whether that be like a romantic or maybe a friendship, as we see with the Three of Cups. So it could even be that he needs to make up his own mind at this point. But that is, of course, my intuitive interpretation, and I'm not infallible, though I try to be. Okay, thank you. You are welcome. I hope that was satisfying. Thank you so much for getting a reading from me. I appreciate it immensely. Two of Wands and Eight of Cups. Yeah, Eight of Cups often is about moving on and moving forward with one's life and comprehending what is right for oneself emotionally and creatively. Two of Wands is often very much about the planning stages of things. I think he's planning something else, or maybe with me. That's hard to say. I mean, something else, or well, it's going to be something new regardless, but it doesn't mean it couldn't involve you, you know. Like the Two of Wands is very early in the Suit of Wands, and the sort of procession or journey in the Suit of Wands. So it's definitely implying the planning for something new, the planning for what we see in the Three of Wands, which is going far and really branching out and getting out there. But that doesn't mean that it couldn't involve you. You can tell he's confused, like we were talking, and then he stopped talking to me. Yeah, and like I said, again, like this is just my intuitive interpretation, and I could be wrong, but my very first thought when I saw this reading was, oh, it looks like he's trying to almost wall parts of himself off, where like there is a part of him that has resistance to you, but there's another part of him that wants a relationship or some kind of harmony with you at least. So yeah, that looks like confusion. And even having the Hermit in the hope to achieve position could simply be saying that he has a desire for clarity, you know, a desire for seeing things clearly. That's a big aspect of that card. Thank you once again. You are welcome once again. You are very welcome indeed. All right, so I'm noticing outside the temperature is going down, which means that my air conditioner is not clicking back on like it should. So I guess I'm going to make it do that manually now. There we go. Might get another reading. All right, well, I am here for the next actually, I guess it is getting pretty late. I'm here for another, like, at least 10 to 15 minutes. So I do have time. All right. Thank you for the donation there. Let's dive in to another reading. My question is, will Anthony want to ever get back together with me in the future? All right, let us see here. All right, so we would like a Celtic cross reading for Rosie on the question of, will Anthony want to ever get back together with her in the future? Will Anthony want to ever get back together with her, with Rosie, in the future? All right, let's see what we get. Again, if I seem a little weird here as I'm shuffling the cards, I'm just getting into the zone. I feel like I should say that so people know what's up with that. All right, here we go. Will Anthony want to ever get back together with Rosie in the future? Celtic cross. Will Anthony ever want to get back together with Rosie in the future? We are asking the universe. Oh, the cards are getting a little wild there. We're asking the universe for information on this situation in the form of a Celtic cross. Will Anthony ever want to get back together with Rosie in the future? We have a lock. All right. Also, hello there, Ryan. I see your comment now. Welcome to the stream, mister. All right, we have Justice, the Five of Cups, the Moon, Page of Wands reversed, the Queen of Swords reversed, the Hierophant, the Six of Pentacles, the Page of Swords, the Eight of Cups, and the Hermit reversed. All right, let me put all this together here. Will he want to get back together in the future? Let's see. From what I'm seeing here, the probability for his desire for that is high, yes. Particularly with the Justice card being the very first card, which in this context is going to talk about the idea of balancing things out. That card is ruled by Venus, which is all about love and harmony, so the achievement of love and harmony. The challenge card being the Five of Cups, however, is indicating that he will likely need to get over some kind of disappointment or some kind of, I don't know, some kind of pain that he feels within Now, this may or may not have to do with you personally. It could have to do with something else entirely. I don't know, but he has to get over like the sense of lost love or a disappointment in general, whether it's surrounding love or not. Let me focus here. Let's see. And he's also like, it looks like anyway, trying to overcome, and this fits with the last reading, interestingly enough, trying to overcome a blockage to his mental clarity with Queen of Swords reversed in his hope to achieve position. Like, he feels like his clarity about the situation is blocked currently, and he's trying to overcome that blockage and reestablish it, re-achieve it. Now, like other indicators that we have here of a likelihood, though, of his wanting to get back together in the future. Well, in the near future position, we have the Hierophant, which again, in this context, can talk about sort of the cementing of a relationship with two people. And let's see, Six of Pentacles. Give me a moment. Let me sort of mentally calculate that real quick. Let's see, Six of Pentacles in the context of this situation. That would more than anything indicate wanting to get back together, yes, because it's talking about exchange on one level. Of course, I most commonly interpret that card in terms of like payoff and rewards and stuff like that. But it has it has the same scales on that card that we see on the Justice card, which also showed up in this reading, symbolizing this idea of like balancing things out, of reestablishing harmony and whatnot. He has problems. Let's see. So that's the good news. I guess the bad news, though, is when we look at that Hermit card reversed for the final outcome card, that indicates that the most probable outcome currently is that he will unfortunately not be able to regain the clarity that he needs, I guess, to actually make this a reality. Furthermore, when we have the moon here for the underlying energy, that's further indicating a lack of clarity. That's a very strong indicator of that. What else was I going to say? Well, just how that also factors into his desire to gain clarity. And then again, the Eight of Cups showing up again in this reading, but this time in hopes or fears. I mean, it's almost like when we look at that, we look at the Five of Cups for the challenge card, like he's afraid to like face some disappointment within himself, or like afraid to move on from things, so as to like let himself want to get back together with you, if that makes sense. Or even if it doesn't have anything to do with that, having the Eight of Cups in hopes or fears, like he's afraid, to face himself or to move on from something. The unknown with the moon. Yeah, the moon is all about the unknown, illusions, all of that, lack of clarity. The Hermit is saying that he will not. Well, it's interesting because technically the Hermit reversed is not saying that per se. The Hermit reversed is saying that he will most likely not find the clarity that he is after about the situation. It doesn't actually say whether or not he will want to get back together with you. It just says that the clarity that he's looking for about that, he most likely will not find. So whether that keeps him from wanting to get back together with you is still uncertain. Though, unfortunately, I guess that would, I would imagine that would make him hesitant about it if he's not getting the clarity that he wants, but it's still not a guarantee that that won't be an issue. Maybe he will take time out to figure things out. It's a possibility as well, especially when we consider that it is the Hermit card. And when we look at the Hermit card upright, we have this idea of withdrawal and getting away from things and even having time to figure things out. And just the fact that it's reversed might mean that he wants that. But, you could be waiting a while basically because that is the outcome card. Thank you. Anyways, I wouldn't want something anytime soon because he needs to grow up. Yeah, I see. Yeah, it looks like he's got to face something within himself. Also, I just drew an 11th card just for the hell of it to see what that might be, and it's the Two of Cups reversed, indicating the blocked energy of a close relationship. So I guess that indicates that it likely won't happen, but at the same time, maybe it could if that energy can be unblocked in whatever way that needs to happen. Thank you, love. You are so welcome. Thank you so much for getting reading for me tonight. I really appreciate it. It's been a slow night, and you were the first one to get a reading for me tonight, so I appreciate it. Yeah. But don't let this, I don't know, don't let this shatter your hopes completely, though, because it's almost like saying the potential could still be there. Because, if you can unblock it, then it becomes upright, and then the relationship blossoms. But, for the moment, it did come up reversed. All right. So, let's see. Hey there, Ryan. I didn't mean to ignore you or anything there. Sorry, I have to focus on one thing at a time, or it drives me crazy. Let's see. Got my respirators, gas masks in the mail today. That's interesting. They look badass now. I just need to start saving up for some proper pants and shirts, then I can get back into industrial goth look. Oh wow, that's cool. An industrial goth look. It reminds me of a lot of the stuff in the Matrix movies. Like if you've seen those. Yeah, that's fascinating. I'm attracted to dark looks myself. Not quite that kind, but maybe he will just need to take a time out and figure things out. Yeah, Rosie, yeah, it really looks like that actually. Like there's a lot of cards that came up that indicated that he needs to find clarity about things. All right, so I guess that's about it for tonight. That the timing of that worked out perfectly. It's now 10:51 p.m. my time, and it's time for me to get going because I need to go have lunch. All right, so thanks everyone for being here. Thanks again, Rosie, for getting the readings from me. Appreciate it immensely. Sorry I couldn't stay longer, I guess, but that's how it goes, I guess. What else was I going to say? Oh, I'll be back on Saturday as usual, hopefully. I don't know what kind of stream we'll do yet, but we shall just see. My new deck of tarot cards should arrive by then. So hopefully I can show them to people that day, show them to all of you that day. And other than that, yeah, be back on Monday and following Wednesday as usual, hopefully. Is this stream over? I'm so sorry. It is. I would totally stay on longer if I had the physical capacity, but I've got to go eat. I don't know. If I feel really inspired, I might come back later, but I don't know if I can because I've got a bunch of things to do. But Saturday, I'll almost certainly be back Saturday. So thanks again, everyone, and have a good night.